Stop doing these things with women, because the more you do them, the faster she loses respect for you. It doesn't matter how attractive you are or how much she liked you at first. If you keep slipping into these behaviors, you'll notice her getting colder, pulling away, and eventually, gone. The worst part? Most guys have no clue they're doing any of this, but after this video, you'll know exactly what to avoid, so you stay in control. Look, women are way more sensitive to certain behaviors than guys realize. What seems normal to you might actually be destroying your chances with her. And the truth is, attraction doesn't die with a loud bang. It fades, quietly, subtly, until one day she just doesn't answer your text, or she says, "I'm not feeling it anymore." If you've ever been left wondering, what the hell went wrong? This is probably why. Today, I'm breaking down 9 things that kill a woman's attraction. Instantly. Do these, and she'll never look at you the same again. Skip these, and you flip the power dynamic in your favor. Let's go. Now think about the times when you've seen a woman absolutely hooked on a man. What was he doing? Was he texting her every 10 minutes, begging for a reply? Was he rearranging his entire life just to fit into hers? Probably not. What he was doing, consciously or not, was being a challenge. Not in a childish or arrogant way, but in a grounded way. He wasn't bending over backward to gain her attention. He had his own life, his own energy, his own boundaries, and that made her feel like she had something to prove. That's what flips the script. When a man respects himself so deeply that he doesn't need to impress anyone, that's when people are drawn to him, especially women. So when a guy starts doing things like constantly apologizing for harmless things, explaining himself when he doesn't need to, or over-texting because he's scared of losing her, he's actually pushing her away without realizing it. One of the biggest mistakes that kills attraction is when a man seeks reassurance too often. You'll see this a lot in situationships or new relationships. He's not sure where he stands, so he starts asking subtle questions like, "Do you still like me?" Or "Are we okay?" Or even just double texting to fill silence. And while that might seem innocent, it drains the mystery out of the interaction. It puts pressure on her to manage his emotions. And once she feels that pressure, the fun is gone, that spark fades. Women want to feel a man's confidence more than they want to hear him say the right thing. When you ask for emotional reassurance too early or too often, you're really just showing her your insecurity. And that makes her question whether you're the kind of man who can handle her in the long run. Then there's the issue of over-validating. This is something most nice guys do without realizing it. Every time she walks in the room, they're praising her looks, her voice, her hair, her style. Compliments are fine when they're sincere and spaced out. But when they become constant, when they start to feel like a script, she stops valuing them. Worse, she starts to wonder if you're just saying those things to win her favor. And here's the twist. When a woman starts doubting the why behind your words, she doesn't feel flattered. She feels skeptical. She feels like you're trying to get something from her, like her affection or attention, and not just giving compliments out of genuine appreciation. That subtle shift changes everything. And let's not forget what happens when you ignore your own boundaries just to stay close to her. Maybe she cancels plans last minute, and instead of calling it out or walking away, you tell her it's no big deal, even though it is. Maybe she disrespects your time or makes sarcastic comments that cross the line, and you just laugh it off because you're scared of rocking the boat. But here's the hard truth. If you keep letting things slide to avoid losing her, you'll lose her anyway, because she sees it. She might not say anything, but deep down, she knows you're not standing up for yourself. And even if she enjoys that power at first, it quickly turns into boredom or frustration. A woman doesn't want to feel like she can walk all over a man. She might test your limits, but she wants to know you have them. Another attraction killer is when a man becomes too predictable. He responds the same way every time. He always says yes. He always replies immediately. There's no tension, no edge, no sense of spontaneity. And that might feel safe, but it's also incredibly dull. Attraction thrives on polarity, on the push and pull, the unknown, the subtle tension between two people. If everything about you becomes easy to predict, she stops wondering about you. And when a woman stops wondering about you, she stops craving you. So the next time you're tempted to always be available or agree with everything she says just to keep the peace, remember, Peace without polarity is just platonic. If there's no emotional charge, there's no chemistry. And without chemistry, you're just a friend, not a man she desires. This is where most guys mess up. They think being liked and being desired are the same thing, but they're not. A woman might like the guy who's always nice, always agreeable, always available, but she doesn't desire him. Desire comes from depth, from unpredictability, from the feeling that she doesn't fully have you, even when she's close to you. And that's not about playing games, it's about living in a way that's real, where you're not so easily swayed by a pretty face or a little attention. You have your own world, your own mission, your own self-respect, and when she sees that you're not trying to win her approval like every other guy, she takes notice. That's when attraction grows. Let's get something straight. There's a big difference between being emotionally open and being emotionally needy. Women actually appreciate a man who can be vulnerable, who can express himself without fear, but when vulnerability becomes a tool for validation, it backfires hard. You've probably seen it before. A guy goes deep into his feelings too quickly. He overshares personal details, hoping she'll feel more connected to him. But instead of feeling closer, she feels a little uncomfortable, maybe even turned off. Why? Because it feels rushed, forced. It's not that he opened up, it's that he did it for the wrong reasons. He wasn't being real, he was trying to fast-track intimacy. And no matter how nice or deep those words sound, if the why behind them feels needy, the woman's instinct will always be to pull back. Another huge mistake that silently kills attraction is putting her on a pedestal. When you treat her like she's better than you, more valuable than you, more out of your league, you instantly shift the dynamic. She becomes the prize. And the moment she feels like she's above you, she starts to look down. You'll notice it in subtle ways. She'll take longer to respond, she'll test you more, she'll act colder. Why? Because you gave her all the power without her having to earn it. And people don't value what comes too easy. If you make her feel like you're lucky just to be talking to her, like she's doing you a favor by being there, she'll start to question your worth, even if you're an amazing guy. Confidence isn't about acting like you don't care. It's about knowing your value and not handing it over just because she's attractive. Now let's talk about indecisiveness. A man who can't make a decision, whether it's about where to go for dinner or what kind of relationship he wants, immediately lowers his value. It's not about being controlling, it's about being clear. Women are drawn to direction. They want to feel like you're grounded enough to lead, to take initiative, to act without hesitating every time. When you keep saying, I don't know, whatever you want, or avoid making any clear moves, you become frustrating. And not in a cute way, in a draining way. She starts to feel like she's carrying the weight of the connection alone, like she has to be the one guiding everything. And once she starts feeling that, her attraction dips, fast. Being too available all the time also chips away at attraction. Think about this. If a woman can reach you any time of day, if she knows you'll always respond immediately, cancel plans for her, and be on standby waiting for her attention, you lose all sense of mystery. And mystery is oxygen for attraction. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about genuinely having a life, being busy, having a purpose outside of her. Because when you're not constantly accessible, your time becomes more valuable. And when your time is valuable, you become valuable. She starts to wonder what you're up to, who you're with, what you're building. That curiosity turns into interest. That interest turns into pursuit. You don't get that by sitting by the phone hoping she texts you back. You get that by moving with purpose, whether she's watching or not. And here's something most guys never realize. They try too hard to be emotionally safe, and in the process, they become boring. They want to avoid saying the wrong thing, avoid rocking the boat, avoid conflict at all costs. But attraction isn't about safety, it's about energy. And energy comes from presence, playfulness, even a little unpredictability. A woman doesn't want a robot who always says the perfect thing. She wants someone who makes her feel. That includes laughter, curiosity, even disagreement. If you're filtering yourself constantly, trying to be harmless, she'll feel nothing. And when a woman feels nothing, she'll leave without explanation. She won't say, "You're too nice." She'll just say, "I don't feel it anymore." And you'll be left wondering what went wrong, when in reality, it's that you never made her feel anything to begin with. So when you hear advice that tells you to just be nice or be yourself, take a second to question what that really means. Because being nice isn't the issue. The issue is when your version of nice is really just fear in disguise. Fear of upsetting her, fear of losing her, fear of being disliked. That kind of fear is repelling. It's the opposite of masculine energy. A man who's grounded in himself doesn't fear how she reacts. He speaks his truth, respects her boundaries, but never sacrifices his own to keep her around. That's rare. And that rarity is what makes you attractive. That's what sticks in her mind. That's what makes her replay your conversations in her head hours later, wondering what makes you different. It's not the words, it's the energy behind them. And when that energy is calm, strong, and unbothered, she feels it without you having to say a word. Here's the thing that'll really wake you up. Most of the attraction-killing behaviors men fall into. They don't even realize they're doing them. It's not like guys wake up in the morning and say, "Today I'm going to chase her until she's sick of me," or "Let me act insecure and indecisive so she pulls away." It happens slowly, almost like a trap. One compromise here, one little moment of validation seeking there, and before you know it, you're doing everything except what creates attraction. You're performing, pleasing, reacting, hoping she gives you a signal that you're enough. But the truth is, when you're trying to earn her attention by stepping outside your natural self, you're giving up the one thing that makes you attractive in the first place, your authenticity, your calm, confident presence. The version of you that doesn't need to chase or convince or over-explain. That version doesn't need to be louder, just more centered. And that's what women feel on a gut level, way before you even open your mouth. Now, one of the biggest red flags you can wave in front of a woman, without even realizing it, is not having boundaries. A man without boundaries is a man who'll let anything slide just to keep the peace. And even though it might seem like you're being accommodating or respectful, what she sees is someone who can be walked all over. It starts small. Maybe she jokes about something you didn't like. You laugh it off. Then she cancels plans last minute. You say, "It's okay, I understand." Then she crosses a line, maybe emotionally, maybe physically, and instead of addressing it directly, you brush it off again. Over time, she doesn't just lose respect, she loses attraction, because boundaries show self-respect, and self-respect is hot. A man who calmly says, "Hey, I'm not okay with that," or "That doesn't work for me," without getting emotional or dramatic, shows he knows his worth. And when you know your worth, she feels it, and that alone shifts how she sees you. Another subtle way guys kill attraction is by constantly seeking reassurance. You may not even realize you're doing it. It shows up as asking her, "Do you still like me?" Or "Was that okay?" Or "Are we good?" after every little conversation. You think it's just being clear or emotionally open, but from her side, it starts to feel like you're emotionally leaning on her. And emotional neediness is heavy. When a woman senses that you need her to reassure you all the time, it creates pressure. It makes her feel like she has to carry the emotional weight for both of you. That pressure becomes resentment, and resentment kills chemistry. Fast. A confident man doesn't need constant confirmation. He knows where he stands because he's centered within himself, not dependent on someone else's mood to define his confidence. Then there's over-texting. And yes, it sounds small, but it's one of the biggest silent killers of attraction in modern dating. You meet her, you connect, maybe you go on one date, and now you're texting her paragraphs, all day, every day, with no pause. You're updating her about your lunch, your boss, your gym session, your random thoughts. And on your end, it feels like you're building a connection. But on her end, it starts to feel like pressure, like noise. Women need space to miss you, to wonder about you, to imagine you. But if you're always in her phone, always popping up in her notifications, there's no mental space for mystery, no room for tension. And tension, that space between contact, that's where attraction actually lives. It doesn't live in constant contact, it lives in anticipation. Don't rob her of that by flooding her with your attention. Less is more, especially when it's quality. Now let's talk about your energy, because it's not just what you do, it's the energy behind it. A lot of guys do the right things, give her space, communicate clearly, stay busy, but their energy still screams insecurity. Their tone, their body language, their hesitation, it all adds up. You can't fake secure energy. You either have it or you're pretending. and pretending doesn't work. What does work is building your life in a way where you're genuinely proud of yourself. You have your own goals, your own values, your own standards, and when you interact with her from that place, you're not just more attractive, you're magnetic, because now you're no longer trying to impress her. You're simply inviting her into a world that already has value with or without her in it. And trust me, that hits different. At the end of the day, attraction is less about trying and more about being. You don't need to impress her, entertain her, or constantly chase her. You just need to be the kind of man who respects himself enough not to hand over all his energy hoping for approval. When you pull back from behaviors that drain your power, overgiving, over-explaining, people-pleasing, you create a space where she has to step up, lean in, and meet you where you are. And that's the frame where real attraction lives. Not just interest, but desire. That's when she looks at you not as an option, but as a man she doesn't want to lose. Watch the next video.